Have you ever sat in the quiet of your room, chosen one, watching the dust settle in the silence, with tears that you could not dry? You looked at the door that had just slammed shut. You listened to the echo of the final words that were spoken. You felt the cold, sharp sting of a sudden ending. Perhaps it was a relationship you poured your heart into. Perhaps it was a position you worked years to build. Perhaps it was a community you thought would be your home forever. But in a single moment, it was gone. The phone fell silent. The invitation stopped. The people who once swore their loyalty to you walked away without a backward glance. They left you in the ruins of your own faithfulness. And in that dark, heavy space, you wept. You asked the Father why. You asked Him what you did to deserve this abandonment. You felt the heavy weight of rejection pressing down on your chest. You felt like a failure. You felt like you had lost the very ground you stood upon. You mourned the future you had planned. You grieved the people you had lost. You sat in the ashes of your expectations, believing that the ending was the final proof that you were not enough. But hear me closely today, chosen one. The Father has sent me with a message for your weary heart. The ending you mourned was not a tragedy. It was not a sign of your defeat. It was actually your rescue. You saw a closed door, but God saw a trap door. You saw a rejection from people, but God saw a release from prison. You were weeping over what you lost, while the angels were celebrating what you escaped. You did not see the rot behind the walls. You did not see the poison in the well you were drinking from. You did not see the quiet compromises that were slowly eroding your soul. You wanted to stay and fix it. You wanted to compromise your own peace to keep their comfort. You wanted to build a home in a place that was meant to be a transit. So, when you refused to leave, the Father had to step in. He did not let them reject you because you were unworthy. He let them reject you because they were no longer allowed to occupy the space where your future was being built. His sovereignty intervened when your strength failed. His love broke the connection to protect your calling. The great C.S. Lewis understood this painful process of divine intervention. In his profound work, The Problem of Pain, he writes about the purpose of suffering. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. The pain of that ending, chosen one, was the megaphone of God. He had whispered to you in the quiet warnings. He had spoken to your conscience when you felt that subtle check in your spirit. But you were too committed to the place you were in. You were too attached to the people you loved. You could not hear the whispers over the noise of your own efforts to make it work. So, the Father had to use the megaphone. He allowed the pain of the rejection to reach a volume you could not ignore. He had to rouse you from the comfortable sleep of compromise. He had to shake the very foundations of your life so that you would finally look up and realize that you were trying to build a kingdom in enemy-occupied territory. The pain was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to wake you. It was the alarm sound of a Father who saw the fire coming long before you saw the smoke. This is the divine economy of the sovereign Lord. What the enemy designs as a weapon to break your spirit, the Father recycles as a tool to build your character. Consider the story of Joseph in the Scriptures. His own brothers looked at him with hatred. They plotted his demise. They stripped him of his coat of many colors. They threw him into a pit. They sold him into slavery. They walked away, believing they had ended his story. Joseph must have sat in the darkness of the pit, mourning the loss of his family. He must have wept over the betrayal of his own flesh and blood. But years later, standing in the palace of Egypt, he looked at the very brothers who had discarded him. He did not speak words of vengeance. He spoke the ultimate truth of divine alignment. In the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20, It is written, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." They meant it for evil. They wanted to erase your name, but God redirected the arrow. He used their betrayal to transport you to the field of your promotion. He used their rejection to pull you out of the small environment that would have starved your potential. Your pit was not your grave. It was your chariot. The ending you mourned was the beginning of your rescue. Imagine, chosen one, a mother who wakes up in the middle of the night to the smell of smoke. She looks down the hallway and sees the flames beginning to climb the walls. She runs into her child's room. She grabs the child from the warm, comfortable bed. The child is startled. The child begins to cry. The child screams because she wants to stay in her bed. She wants her toys. She wants her blanket. She does not understand why she is being pulled out into the cold night air. From the child's perspective, the mother is being violent. The mother is destroying her peace. But the mother is not thinking about the child's temporary comfort. She is thinking about the child's survival. She carries the child out of the house, even as the roof begins to collapse. This is exactly what the Father did for you, chosen one. You were sleeping in a burning house. You were comfortable in an environment that was spiritually on fire. You were trying to save the furniture of toxic relationships. You were trying to preserve the structures of an old season. And God had to grab you. He had to pull you out, even as you screamed. He had to let the house burn so that you would not go back inside. You wept over the ashes of the cottage, but He was saving the child. So today, chosen one, it is time to dry your tears. It is time to look at the ruins not with regret, but with gratitude. If you are ready to stop mourning the fire and receive the rescue of the Father, type "I receive the rescue" in the comments below. Let this declaration seal your heart. Let it release the grief of the closed door. Now, let us discover why the comfort you were clinging to was actually a threat. Why is it, chosen one, that we cling so tightly to the very things that are killing us? We look at the nest we have built, and even when the twigs are sharp, even when the environment is toxic, we wrap our wings around it and call it security. You wanted to stay in that place. You wanted to keep those friends. You wanted to preserve that job, even though your peace was drained every single day. You were willing to trade your inheritance for their approval. You were willing to settle for a small, suffocating corner because the thought of stepping into the unknown was too terrifying. We do this because the familiar is comfortable, even when the familiar is slowly poisoning our souls. We stay in relationships where we are tolerated, not celebrated. We remain in environments where our light is dimmed so that others will not feel threatened. We make ourselves small, believing that if we just lower our expectations, we can keep the peace. But the peace you were keeping was a false peace. It was the peace of the graveyard. It was the comfort of a prison cell where you had grown used to the chains. C.S. Lewis wrote about this tragic tendency of human nature. In his magnificent sermon, The Weight of Glory, he exposes the core of our spiritual stagnation, saying, "It would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum, because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. We are far too easily pleased." Think about that image, chosen one. A child sitting in the mud of a dark, filthy alleyway, shaping little pies out of dirt. The child is happy in the mud because he has never seen the ocean. He has never felt the warm sand beneath his feet. He has never heard the crash of the waves. If you offered him a holiday at the sea, he would refuse it because he cannot comprehend it. He would rather stay in the slum, clutching his mud pies. This is exactly how we look to the Father. He offers us infinite joy. He offers us a calling that spans nations. He offers us relationships built on pure, divine love. And yet, we sit in the toxic slums of our old habits, clutching the mud pies of toxic friendships and dead careers, screaming because He is trying to take the dirt away, because the Father loves you too much to let you stay in the alleyway. He did not call you to spend your life making mud pies. So, when He saw you settling, He had to act. He did not just ask you to leave. He made it impossible for you to stay. He disturbed the nest. He allowed the comfort to turn into friction. He allowed the people you trusted to reveal their true hearts. He allowed the whispers, the backbiting, and the betrayal to rise to the surface. Suddenly, the environment that once felt safe became a place of torment. You walked into the room and felt the sudden drop in temperature. You spoke your truth and met the wall of cold silence. You tried to fit in, but the corners had grown too sharp. You felt the pain of the nest being dismantled, twig by twig. You cried out, asking why the comfort had vanished. But it was not the enemy's victory. It was the Father's hand. An eagle mother does not keep her eaglets in the nest forever. When it is time for them to fly, she begins to pull away the soft feathers and the comfortable grass. She exposes the sharp thorns and the rough branches. She makes the nest so uncomfortable that the young eagles are forced to stand on the edge. This is the beautiful, fierce love of the Creator described in the Scriptures. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, verse 11, we find this powerful imagery. Like an eagle that stirs up its nest and hovers over its young, that spreads its wings to catch them and carries them aloft. The stirring of your nest was a necessary disruption. If the nest had remained soft, you would have never left it. You would have died a crawling creature, never knowing that you were designed to rule the heights. The Father had to stir the branches. He had to let the rejection push you to the edge of the cliff. And when you fell, when you felt the terrifying drop of the ending, you thought you were falling to your destruction. But the Father was hovering. He spread His wings beneath you. He caught you in the mid-air of your panic. He carried you aloft on the wind of His Spirit. The fall you feared was actually the moment your wings were activated. You had to lose the safety of the branch to discover the majesty of the sky. Your ending was the catalyst for your elevation. Now, you must make a decision, chosen one. Will you go back to the slum? Will you try to gather the scattered dirt to make another mud pie? The temptation is always there. When the sky feels too vast and the wind feels too strong, we long for the smallness of the alleyway. We want to text the people who rejected us. We want to beg for the jobs that discarded us. We want to apologize for things we did not do, just to feel the familiar warmth of the old nest. But you cannot go back. The slum has nothing left for you. If you return, you will find that the mud pies no longer satisfy. Your taste buds have been altered by the first breath of the sea air. Your spirit has grown too large for the cage. The Father has closed that chapter permanently. He has set a guard at the gate of your past. Every time you try to turn back, you will meet the wall of His protection. Embrace the vastness. Accept the discomfort of growth. You were not made for the dirt. You were made for the deep. If you are ready to leave the slum behind, chosen one, if you refuse to make mud pies in the ruins of your past, let the heavens hear your resolve today. Type "I will not settle" in the comments below. Let it be a boundary line in the spirit. Let it declare to every old habit and toxic connection that your eyes are fixed on the holiday at the sea. Now, let us step into the mystery of the snapping snare. There is a quiet danger, chosen one, that surrounds the path of the called. It is the danger of the invisible trap. The enemy of your soul does not always attack with a roaring lion. More often, he works as a quiet, patient hunter. He sets a snare in the places you walk. He uses the sweet bait of affection, the promise of security, and the allure of belonging. He watches as you take step after step toward the trap. You did not see the thin wires. You did not know that the relationship you entered was designed to bind your spirit. You did not know that the community you joined would slowly strangle your voice. You walked in, smiling, seeking only to love and be loved. And then, without warning, the snare snapped. The metal bars slammed shut. You found yourself in a cage of betrayal, surrounded by walls of hostility. You cried out in panic. You beat your wings against the bars. You mourned the sudden confinement, asking why a journey that started so beautifully had ended in such a painful cage. In his deep reflections on rescue and grace, C.S. Lewis captured the paradox of the prison house. He described the way the Father breaks the nets we find ourselves in. The door of the cage had been slammed and double-bolted, yet the prisoner was free. We were trapped in the net of our own choices, and God broke the net, not to make us comfortable, but to set us free to run. Think about the weight of those words, chosen one. The cage door was not just closed, it was double-bolted. By all human standards, your escape was impossible. The network of gossip was too wide. The rejection was too coordinated. The damage to your reputation was too deep. You were trapped by the choices you made, and the choices others made against you. But the hunter forgot one critical truth. You do not belong to the hunter. You belong to the Creator. The Father did not break the cage to make you comfortable. He did not free you so that you could sit on the ground next to the trap. He broke the bars so that you would run. He broke the net so that you would fly. The snapping of the snare was the signal for your departure, because the hunter's cage is designed for slow starvation. If you had stayed in that environment, chosen one, you would have slowly lost your song. You would have forgotten the wind. You would have become a domesticated bird, dependent on the crumbs thrown by those who held the key. They wanted to control your voice. They wanted to decide when you could sing and when you had to be quiet. They wanted to limit your flight to the dimensions of their expectations. So, the Father allowed the snare to snap. He allowed the trap to shut. He let you feel the terrifying weight of the lock. Why? Because He wanted you to see the trap for what it truly was. As long as the door was open, you thought it was a shelter. You thought the cage was a home. You did not believe the whispers of warning. So, God let the door slam. He let the hunter lock the bolt. And in that moment of absolute helplessness, when you realized no human hand could save you, the Father stepped onto the field. This is the great song of deliverance recorded in the Scriptures. In the book of Psalms, chapter 124, verse 7, it is written, "We have escaped like a bird from the fowler's snare. The snare has been broken, and we have escaped." Notice the sequence of the miracle. The snare did not just vanish. The trap was not quietly dismantled. The snare was broken. It was shattered by the power of the Almighty. The word fowler refers to the professional bird catcher. He has spent generations studying the behavior of birds. He knows exactly what bait to use. He knows how to hide the net. His trap is perfect. But his trap is not stronger than the hand of your God. The Father did not negotiate with the hunter. He did not pay a ransom to the cage. He simply reached down, took the metal wires of the snare, and tore them apart. He shattered the mechanism of your confinement. He broke the power of the contract that bound you. The snare is broken, chosen one. It is not just open, it is destroyed. So, why are you still sitting in the ruins of the cage? Many chosen ones escaped the trap, but they continued to live in the fear of the hunter. They sit on the broken wires, looking at the sky, but their wings are frozen. They replay the sound of the door slamming. They recount the betrayal over and over. They watch the path, waiting for the hunter to return. But the Lord says to you today, the sky is waiting. The snare is broken. The air is clear. You do not need to walk with your head bowed, expecting another trap around every corner. The fowler has lost his power over your destiny. His nets can no longer hold your wings. Look up from the dust of the cage. Feel the wind of the Holy Spirit moving around you. It is time to stretch the wings you forgot you had. It is time to rise above the level of the bushes. The higher you fly, the smaller the hunter's traps become. The heights are your safety. Your escape is complete. If you believe the lock has been shattered, chosen one, if you are ready to leave the broken cage behind and take flight, declare your freedom before the hosts of heaven. Type "the snare is broken" in the comments below. Let this be your song of deliverance. Let it shake the foundations of every prison the enemy tried to build for you. You are no longer a captive. You are an escaped bird, and the sky belongs to you. Now, let us examine the new path the Father is clearing through the wilderness. When a door slams shut in your life, chosen one, it does not only leave you standing in the ruin, it forces you onto the road. You cannot remain at the threshold of what used to be. You cannot camp outside a door that God has locked and bolted. The closing of the door is the opening of the path, but the path before you does not look like a garden. It does not look like a paved highway with bright lights and signs. It looks like an empty, silent road. It looks like a wilderness. You look to the left, and there is nothing but sand. You look to the right, and the horizon is empty. You feel the sharp heat of isolation. You feel the dust of loneliness settling on your skin. You wonder if God rescued you from the burning house, just to let you die of thirst in the desert. You look back at the smoke of the cottage, and in the weakness of your flesh, you almost wish you were back in the fire, just to feel the warmth of the familiar. But the wilderness is not a place of execution. It is a place of transition. It is the road you must walk to reach the country you were promised. The great C.S. Lewis wrote about the journey forward in a beautiful letter to a friend facing a painful transition. He spoke of the necessity of looking forward, declaring, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." The pain of the empty road is the preparation for the arrival of the promised country. Do not look back to the burning cities. Look forward to the mountains. Let these words sink into your spirit, chosen one. Far, far better things ahead. Not just slightly better, not a compromise, but things that will make the cottage you lost look like a toy. The pain of the empty road you are walking right now is not a punishment. It is the preparation. The quietness of the desert is training your ears to hear His voice. The heat of the wasteland is melting away the dependencies of the old season. You had to lose the crowd to learn the voice of the shepherd. Do not look back at the burning cities. Do not stare at the relationships that went up in flames. Do not waste your tears on the ashes of betrayal. The mountains are ahead. The heights are calling your name, because the wilderness is where the chosen one is forged. In the smallness of your past, you relied on others for your strength. You drew your identity from the approval of the people around you. You looked to the cottage for your shelter, but in the desert, there are no people to lean on. There are no structures to hide behind. There is only you, the sand, and the presence of the living God. It is here that you discover that His grace is not just a theology, it is your oxygen. It is here that you learn that His peace is not dependent on your circumstances. It is an anchor within your soul. The Father did not bring you here to starve you. He brought you here to show you His provider heart. When there is no food, He rains manna from the heavens. When there is no water, He speaks to the rock and makes it gush. The very lack you feel in the wilderness is the space where His abundance is about to be revealed. You had to run out of human resources to discover the limitless wealth of the kingdom. Your desert is the stage for your miracle. This is the great promise of the sovereign Lord through the prophet Isaiah. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verses 18 and 19, it is written, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past." Why does the Lord command this so strictly, chosen one? Because you cannot walk forward while looking backward. If you are constantly staring at the door that closed, you will trip over the path that is opening. If you are always mourning the cottage, you will walk right past the palace He is building for you. See, He is doing a new thing. It is already springing up. It is not a repeat of the old. It is not a patched-up version of the past. It is completely new. He is making a way in the wilderness. He is creating rivers in the dry ground. The very place you thought would be your end will become the source of your greatest supply. So, let go of the ashes, chosen one. Stop picking up the pieces of the relationship that broke. Stop trying to rebuild the bridge that God burned down. He burned it for a reason. He saw the enemies that were waiting on the other side. He saw that if you went back, you would be captured. The fire that destroyed your past was the wall of fire that protected your future. Keep your eyes on the horizon. Feel the heat of the road, yes, but know that every step is bringing you closer. The mountains are rising in the distance. The promised country is near. The wilderness is temporary, but the inheritance is eternal. You are not wandering, you are being led. You are not lost, you are being positioned. Trust the road, trust the guide. He who rescued you from the flame will not leave you in the dust. If you are ready to stop looking back at the burning cities, chosen one, if you are ready to perceive the new thing the Father is doing in your life, make your declaration of faith today. Type "I am moving forward" in the comments below. Let this step of faith register in the spiritual realm. Let it tell the enemy that you have left the ruins and your feet are locked onto the path of your destiny. Now, let us enter the final revelation of the master plan. At the end of the empty road, chosen one, there is a destination you did not foresee. The wilderness does not go on forever. The dust eventually settles. The sun begins to rise over a new horizon. And there, standing before you, are the gates of the palace He prepared. You thought you were wandering in the desert to be forgotten. You thought the closing of the cottage door was the end of your story. But the Father was only moving you. He had to take you out of the small room to bring you into the grand hall. He had to strip away the counterfeit relationships to prepare you for the covenant connections. You mourned the loss of the cheap metal, not knowing He was holding a crown of pure gold. You wept over the closed door of the servants' quarters, while the key to the master's house was in His hand. The road was long, yes. The sand was hot, and your feet were tired. But look up, the gates are opening. The inheritance is waiting. In his profound contemplation of heaven and destiny, C.S. Lewis captured the ultimate reversal of loss. He wrote of the door that closed and the palace that opened. The door we sat crying outside of was only a door to a small closet, but the door he opened was the gateway to a kingdom. We were weeping for the loss of a toy while he was preparing a throne. Read those words again, chosen one. Weeping for the loss of a toy. The relationship you thought was your forever, it was a toy. The job you thought defined your success, It was a small closet. The community that rejected you and shut you out? It was a temporary shelter. You sat on the cold floor, crying, pleading with God to let you back into the closet. You beat your fists against the locked wood, begging Him to return the toy that had been taken. But God, in His infinite mercy, stayed silent. He did not answer your prayer because He loved you too much to let you settle. He let you cry outside the closet so that He could lead you to the throne room. Because your God is not just a protector, He is the master architect of your destiny. He does not build in random pieces. He does not allow endings without purpose. Every stone that was thrown at you in the old season was gathered by His hand. He is using those very stones to pave the road to your palace. Every tear you wept in the dark nights of the desert was kept in His bottle. He is using those tears to water the garden of your future. The ending you mourned was actually the excavation phase. Before you can build a palace, you must dig deep into the earth. You must clear away the old foundation. You must break the dry ground. The excavation felt like destruction. It felt like your life was being torn apart. But it was only the preparation for the weight of the glory that is coming. The deeper the valley He dug in your soul, the taller the structure He is about to raise. Your past was not wasted. It was the foundation. This is the eternal declaration of the Father to His called ones. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, it is written, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future, prosper you and not to harm you, hope and a future." This is the blueprint of your life, chosen one. It was written before you drew your first breath. It was signed in the blood of the Lamb. The plans of God for you cannot be aborted by the decisions of men. They cannot be cancelled by betrayal. They cannot be delayed by the wilderness. The enemy thought he was destroying you when he closed the door. He thought he was leaving you to die in the dry ground, but he was only serving the plans of the Creator. The weapon that was formed against you became the tool that extracted you from the trap. The plans of God are secure. Your future is locked in His hand. So, lift up your head, chosen one. The season of mourning is over. The ashes of the cottage are behind you. The dust of the desert is washed away by His rain. Enter the gates with thanksgiving. Step into the palace of your purpose. You are not a survivor of a tragedy. You are the subject of a glorious rescue. You are not a victim of betrayal. You are the heir to a kingdom. The Father is placing the robe of honor on your shoulders. He is putting the ring of authority on your finger. He is saying to you today, welcome home. Every ending was a rescue. Every delay was a redirection. Every loss was a preparation. The throne is ready. The crown is yours. If you are ready to claim the promise, chosen one, if you receive the palace and the throne He prepared for you, seal this word in your heart. Type "I receive my inheritance" in the comments below. Let this be your final seal of agreement with the Father's plan. Thank you for walking this road of wisdom with us. If this sermon has brought comfort to your soul, consider subscribing to C.S. Lewis Sermons. Share this message with another chosen one who is mourning an ending. Remember, the door that shut was your rescue. The road is clear. Go forward in His strength. Amen.